So, here we are. I hope everyone had a good Christmas.
This is the last day of 2018.
Can you believe it?
Does that sound weird to say out loud?
A little bit. I'm super excited for 2019 though.
Are you?
I am. Lots of big stuff coming.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel you.
I feel all of you, yeah. Feeling you. Yeah, like let's get it going. I feel like this is like the year that like let's just get shit done.
Yeah. And it's before 2020. I think 2020 for to me is sort of like this year that's so futuristic. Maybe because I'm old, I don't know, but it's like 2020.
No,
I still remember
it's a new decade, you know.
You're right. It's like
know?
It feels like what was the 20th Century Fox? I don't know why that's like the movie brand. I don't know why that's coming to my mind when you say 2020, but it like seems like there's gonna be like space cars flying around, even though we haven't even done like electric cars yet. But
I just want to sing the Jonas Brothers song. The year 3000. No, you guys not
I don't know. No.
Damn it!
Okay, all right, thank you. Because I was like,
I would sing it if I knew it.
I was like, do you know what she's talking about? Because I'm like,
all right.
Good try on
that one.
Good try.
We're not quite there yet.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ask a question because you're a man, so I don't think this is as much a kiss of death. But you'll be 40 next year, is that correct?
I will be 40 next year.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
40 years old.
Dude, how do you feel about that? Because I just turned 30.
Yeah.
So like,
great question. How do I feel about that? You know, I almost feel a little disconnected from it right now.
okay, that makes sense.
Because I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh my god, I'm going to be 40 per se. And at the same time, it is sort of a life mark.
Yeah.
So I plan to celebrate it by going somewhere. I haven't decided yet, but I feel good. I mean, I like getting older. And I like sort of growing in wisdom and knowledge.
Well, that's why I asked you that question.
Yeah. So for me, it's sort of a benchmark, I guess.
Well,
in a positive way.
Like, because that's the thing too. So Pam Blodgett, like the one I do neurotherapy with, she's like 40 is when all the magic happens. And like when I me knowing you is like I would never look at you as a person who's like I'm 40, like because you're like always about like getting deeper and finding that wisdom, right? So it's like. And I know for me, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm 30. Like,
well, age is a victory, isn't it? Like, how lucky are we to be here another year?
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Well, I've never heard that.
Isn't it?
Age is a victory.
Isn't it,
That's
though?
good.
Like,
congrats for being
we
here,
made
guys.
It another year.
I want
another
congrats.
Right there.
My hands are sweating.
Age is a victory.
Oh my god, they are.
It's really bad. It's a problem.
That's when they don't get right.
Don't give me a high five. Just, getting back to normal life right now. Let's introduce Nathan.
Okay,
now that you know how old he's going to be.
Yeah. Age first.
All right.
Yeah.
Nathan, go tell people
tell people who you are.
I think you can.
I think everyone knows because we
right?
don't have you on live, right?
Jeez,
so
who am I? That's a powerful question.
Okay, well, we don't need like the deep, like deep, like universal consciousness cosmos.
Okay.
You know, just like the
the high level.
Yeah, the high level. Like if I wanted to do business with you, what?
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I mean, I'm a coach. You know, I almost hesitate to use certain words to describe it because it sort of words create worlds, right? And it could limit what people think. But
very much so.
I'm a high performance coach. I'm a success coach. I'm a life coach. Bottom line is I'm a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I help people to make their lives awesome, right? That's what I want to do. I want to help people reach their next level of success. And success is obviously a word that means something different to everybody. And so that's really part of the process with coaching is getting that clarity. And I help people get the clarity and then the courage to really take action. And that's across all areas of life. So when you grow personally, you grow in your business. When you grow in your business, you grow personally, right? The two are related. So the coaching I do is very holistic. And you've experienced some of it.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to definitely tell them about that. Well, I think I want to add this because I love this when you talk about this, but Nathan calls people out on their bullshit. Yeah. You say that often.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that because
I
know you call me out on my bullshit and I secretly love it sometimes, even though I'm like, stinger. But
So it's interesting because one of the things for me, that's sort of, I guess I would call it the matured expression of something I used to always do. So I used to always, growing up, I was like devil's advocate. Love to be argumentative.
I don't know what that's
Those of you who know me probably know this. So I love to be argumentative. And it used to always come from a place of usually just, ego or just trying to be a moron or whatever. Just a jerk, just to like get a rise out of people. But as you mature, you talk about turning 40, right? Part of that is just growing up, and it's not about that anymore. It's really about helping others, and so we all need to be called out on our BS.
No, I think so. Perfect example. I was lucky enough to work with you. I won a session. That's actually,
right.
For any of the followers, the picture of me like celebrating a win was winning the raffle for Nathan's coaching session, which we actually recently had, and it's been super helpful for me because I think, being like this like grandiose thinker, always thinking about the positive, like, and having the fears of success and failure. I think sometimes if you don't put a plan in place, it's kind of like so like we sat down and like put a plan in place, and it's been like super helpful in giving me kind of like, okay, like there's some direction here. And even if I think it's helpful because it's like, even if that like plan, doesn't end up working or whatever, it's like, at least I have a direction. And I've always been the type of person, and I can't speak for everyone, but myself, it's like, if you give me a plan of attack, like I'm just gonna like put my heart into it.
Yeah.
If it fails, we'll readjust course, but at least I'm like working towards something other than just like waking up and being like, well, let's just throw a dart on this wall and throw it up there, and maybe something will work,
Right. Yeah, it's that whole thing. I may have told you this quote, but you can't steer a parked car, right?
No, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. So much of the time, people are just they're indecisive, and so they just like stay on the course of what they're doing, but they don't know where they're going, right? So it's sort of, they're just stuck in this one place, and it's through our experience, it's through that feedback. By trying new things, they would say, oh, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Or yes, that's working great. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah.
But people are get so afraid to take action and take the next step. And so that's the parked car. And it's like, well, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You're just going to keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So, you got to move, even if it's like scary as hell, you just got to take that step. It's the only way to change.
Yeah. So let's talk about what were you doing before coaching? Like, what was your parked car like before you got into this?
Great question.
This lifestyle.
Nice segue. That's
really good.
So before I really got into coaching, my my golden handcuffs job, if you will, I worked in pharmaceuticals, and I worked in that industry for, let's say, 10, 11 years. And it was, it was great because of the people that I met, and that's actually part of why I stayed there so long, is because I just worked with great people. I was enjoying life. It was comfortable. It was, I was able to pay my bills, which is really good. I had paid vacation, 401k, all that good stuff, right? Yeah. And it was, sort of that soul-sucking experience. Like, you go in day after day, and it wasn't feeding me. And I knew I had to do something different. I didn't know what, so that was my parked car. And it's like, well, what am I going to do? This is all I know, right? This is the only thing I have. And so it really was that belief in self to say, you know what? I'm going to sort of take that risk. I'm going to step out. And I actually first started teaching yoga as my sort of full-time gig. So, and I had support as well, which is really helpful because no one does it alone.
Yeah.
So I'd say, look for the people around you who can support you, because for most of us, they're there. Yeah. You just need to have the courage to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been in this community for a while, like this area?
Yeah, I was raised here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in Exeter, grew up in Exeter mostly.
Wait, Exeter Hospital?
I was born in Exeter Hospital, yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
You too?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Dude, I just learned so much more about Nathan in that last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Andrew has almost the same birthday.
So we have almost the same birthday. We were born in the same place. Just like almost 10 years apart.
Yeah, well, that's alright.
That's crazy.
That is insane. Wow.
I like that.
I need to pause because my brain's a little bit blown right now.
You do that. We'll continue.
Yeah, you guys can go on.
We'll continue the conversation.
We'll just continue.
There's
well, I think that's something that is so many people who come on Wild Hearts, and for us, like this community and like specifically has been, obviously it might be the only community you've really known, and like I know me, like leaving and coming back, like there's just something really special about this like Seacoast kind of area.
Yeah.
Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, how would I speak about that? I have been in this community for a long time. I feel like, and this is sort of, I think, a New England thing too, but people they build roots here, right? And roots grow, and it's not this sort of passive or sort of superficial connections that sometimes are experienced out west. I've never lived out west, but that's what I've heard. And so it's just, when you have friendships out here, they go deep. And people are willing, they're loyal, and they'll help you and do whatever they can. And I think that's what it is. Even if you leave and you come back, you know, it's just like coming back to an old friend.
Yeah, I want to talk about this because I had this experience last night where I was working at the restaurant, and I was honestly kind of having a rough day. I was tired. It was like my second double in a row. I had gotten just not a great tip, and like kind of just like took the wind out of my sails. And all of a sudden, my literally best friend from childhood came in with his family. And the hostess goes, "Oh, like you're someone you know is here." I'm like, "That's mysterious." And I like go back and like literally like a little schoolgirl like jumped like 4 feet in the air when I saw him, like gave everyone a big hug, and it was like we never skipped a beat. I hadn't seen them in probably 10 years, and like it was just an amazing experience. And it's also really funny because I feel like I have wanted for the last 5 years. I've told myself like one more summer I'm gonna like go try the out west thing. One more, and I keep not doing it. And I think it is just because of just the roots here. Like I know so many people, there's so much support here, and not to say you can't create that in other places, but I feel like this little nook it is, I don't know if it's the roots or like, it's hard to describe. It's like special. It's all really interconnected, and I just don't know how to describe it. It's just a really cool feeling.
It's hard to describe.
You know what I mean?
Right,
but it just seems like
it's a feeling.
It's not to say it's not. Like, maybe there's other people feel the same way, but like Montana or Kansas or whatever. But being here my whole life, it's like you know so many people, and there's so much support, and
it's just a special area anyway. I think just with its location, there's so many really cool things: the mountains, the ocean, really cool cities. I mean, so there's just a special energy here, and I don't know that you can define it per se. It's just
well, and it's like obviously like such a small section of the world, and there's so much beauty in this world, and like I did some traveling last year, and it's like, but there is just, and it's like I'm an outdoors guy, you know, there's like you said, there's mountains, lakes, rivers, ocean, like
what it is, it's sort of it's like just pure potential, right? There's like so much potential in this area. And I think that's part of what that feeling is for me.
I think that like that breathing into that feels right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and I think it's like this vibe of like, we're like New Hampshire, like small towns, like you're in Farmington, we're in Dover, like who the hell's Nathan Smith, who's Sean Adam, who's Michaela Jean, you know, like the idea though that like one day, like who knows, I mean like maybe fame's someone's goal here or not, but like we might be like, this podcast might be like Greg in the Morning Buzz, you know, like
might be,
or I don't know, like the Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, you know. So
it'll be whatever you want it to be.
Well, exactly. True that.
Confidence.
But yeah, I mean, it is. I think I can't describe. I don't know the words, but I think what you said really resonates, I guess.
I feel like I missed something important there, but
we were just
okay. We're having some technical difficulties with the Wi-Fi, so if you're on live right now, can you send us a message that you can see us or hear us? That would be.
And actually, this is the second week in a row we've had technical difficulties. So if you're a technical human, we may need your services.
We may
need your services in the future.
If you're on live, could you please let us know?
Could you just let us know?
Start sending messages.
Hopefully we're back.
So I think we should backtrack because we didn't even introduce who we were.
Well, that's okay because we don't have any of Nathan's like outside people, so everyone probably knows us. But
that's true.
As an update, I'm Michaela and I can't hear out of my right ear, so that's me in a nutshell.
Right on. All right.
This is a little overwhelming.
So we were just talking. Where were we? Kind of like you distracted me because you're like out in left field.
We talked about pure potential.
Pure potential,
which is the energy of the area.
Okay.
In my view.
Well, yeah, and I think it's just so many supportive people, and so many like especially like friends that I've made over the last year are a lot of also like entrepreneurs or creative people who kind of understand that kind of lifestyle. And I hate to use the word hustle, but like that lifestyle I think is just a better terminology for it. And just like there's this constant like support, not a lot of other people like trying to pull you down or like sway you from your path, but just a lot of support and like recognition that even if you're doing the same quote unquote same thing as somebody else, everyone's doing it their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, great interjection point of you introduced me to something near and dear to both our hearts at this point, the Mankind Project. And I was going through a tough time. Basically, my entire life was getting excavated, and I had met you. actually it was really comical, so I'm going to talk about this whole
Yeah.
thing. I met you at a networking meeting as a finance guy, and you were like, bro, trying to like rebrand my business, help me out. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I like blew you off at least 27 times in that process, and you stayed really patient with me, and I was like really stressed out. And then I wasn't the finance guy. And then I like, that was just a really rough situation. And
Did you guys meet at Coastal?
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
And then, although it wasn't even you, it was Brett that invited me to the circle.
Yeah.
But you had like talked to me about Mankind, but like that's how I got introduced, and that had become like such a, speaking about support, like, I mean, I'm sure I would have survived through that, but that was like extremely helpful to like really process some of that stuff in the moment.
Yeah.
And I know it's important for you, so do you want to kind of like touch on like the part that's played in your life and
sure,
maybe just talk about what that is for you?
Yeah. So Mankind Project, really, I mean, there's the organization, right? But you know, more fundamental is the men's group that we're in and that we go to every single week. And so, you know, being in a men's group for me it's been something that, you know, growing up, I always connected more with women. It was just easier. It's you recognize, right? We got similar thing there.
It's like a
and there's a thing for me, and you know, we don't need to get into all the reasons why, but you know, this isn't a men's group. So
I am not a man.
So, but I just, you know,
I don't even know. I can't even hear what's happening.
Oh man.
Are you laughing?
So yeah, I just had trouble like trusting men. It was just easier for me to connect with women.
Me too. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Three-way cheers right there.
That's perfect. And many of the viewers, I'm sure. And so, you know, it's just really become a very special place for me to be able to come and share openly, share authentically, and let myself, you know, feel what I need to feel. Because growing up, I was also someone who, you know, I didn't really connect to my emotions. Or I didn't want to. I kind of shut down. So, you know, part of my story, if you will, is my twin brother passing away. He passed away when I was 16 years old, and obviously, just when I heard that news, I can tell you it was sort of like, I guess the best way that I could describe it is it felt like cement kind of just like shot through my whole body, right? Like I just like froze, right? And in denial, obviously, for a long time. And certainly there's a lot of anger there, but it was repressed anger. And, you know, I wanted to be the Rock, not because of some, you know, because I wanted to be the hero per se, but I think more I wanted to be the Rock for my family because I didn't want to connect to my own shit. You know what I mean? And that was a real convenient way to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, and that was a pattern for me that that really continued. Is I got really good at talking about other people and getting other people to talk about themselves and not talking about me.
Deflection mechanism.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, it was really good, and it's actually become a really good skill as a coach.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can see how, you know, your past, or my past, really builds to where I am today, and so that was really a big moment for many reasons. One is because that started that journey of being sort of, I guess, that emotional awareness journey, in the respect that I disconnected first, and then it took me, when I say, you know, I was about 30 years old, probably a little earlier than that when I started yoga, and I finally started to open up to some of that stuff. Finally started to be more, okay, well, let's process this, let's feel this, and, you know, I did some work that really really opened me up. You know, I could talk for probably a long time about the work that is, but we probably don't have that kind of time here. But yeah, so that was really important for me, and then having the men's group as a place to further process that stuff and to really get to, you talk about calling people out on their bullshit. It's like, well, yeah, me too. Like, I need to be called out on my bullshit. And, you know, one, that's why I have a coach too, but also, you know, in the place of a men's group, you know, men don't have to call me out. I can call myself out, right? And that's really, that's where the growth is when you start sort of telling on yourself, right? And then you can, like, you recognize your own patterns, your own stories, and where you escape or where you move away, instead of just facing what's in front of you. And that's what men's group has really done for me.
That's amazing. Do you ever feel like, I'm curious about this, is because, I mean, this is like a feeling I have, is like, you you know, obviously there's like those elements of your life where you feel confident and like calling yourself out and like talking about it because you have experience. But like, you know, I'll just, you know, this is my work, so I guess I can kind of talk about it. It's like, you know, a big thing for me is just sexuality in general. Diving deeper into it, like meaningful sex, all that stuff. I kind of feel like, even when I'm talking about it with you or in a group, I feel like a little boy talking about it because I have such little experience, and it feels like nerve-wracking because, granted, I feel like a lot of people, I guess I can't speak for everyone else, but I know I want to talk about it openly because it's just this area where it's kind of, I don't even know if I want to say stale, it seems like I really haven't grown or evolved much in it. It's been like the same thing for a long time, but I just feel vulnerable and like kind of like a little, like I'm a little boy, like, is it okay? Like, are you guys gonna like scold me, or like am I gonna be called like made fun of, you know? So I know it's just cool to have that space to just feel free to like talk about it, and then like usually in my experience we have a good laugh about it, at least on this subject, you know what I mean? So it's like it's freeing because I feel like I've kept that cage inside and you know, haven't had open forums to like discuss these important things, and I know that that's what it's been like for me. So I wonder if you share that same feeling though sometimes with like the like new topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of Westerners, even it's, you know, that's a very taboo subject, and so it's not like, you know, other things we're more likely to have open dialogue and conversation, and that's where that growth comes from. Right, that's where the maturity comes from, is experience and conversations and really getting into that. And so, because we don't do that in the West, you do feel like a little kid because you're not used to talking about it. And it's that little kid. I mean, a lot of that is, in my judgment, you know, shame, right? And it's so interesting. You know, I had, you know, I'll have clients, and you can hear so much in the tone of people's voices, which is so interesting. Like and shame is a big thing, I think, in the West.
Oh my gosh.
And people just like feel like I'm not good enough and I don't deserve it, and you know, all kinds of reasons for that. You know, I had one person who was talking to me about a certain subject, and he's like, well, I'm not ashamed of it, and he got so quiet. He said, I'm not ashamed, right? And so it's like he wanted to say one thing, he believed one thing, but his body was saying something else, right? It wasn't in alignment, there wasn't congruence, and so we can always kind of look to the tone as a really powerful indicator for what's really going on. So.
I think that's bold because you talked to me about when I'm speaking. Like when I would talk about like the times of depression, like I would sink into a depressed voice.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't need to go there.
Right.
But it was like, as soon as you pointed that out, it's like, wow. Like my tone completely changed when I would talk about it. And it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So,
and body language.
Yeah. No, I'm wondering because now you're doing like, I wouldn't say it's a woman's circle, but like you got your vulnerability, like.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's very similar. I mean, I've never been to a men's circle, but with the vulnerability workshops, like I assume a lot of the reasons the women go are for the same reasons, and something that came up for me when you were saying like the change in the voice or something was sometimes you just can't even control the way you react to how you're speaking about something. Like with the vulnerability workshops, like I can specifically remember like specific women trying to talk about something and not being able to get through it without crying, or like just like, and not even being able to like speak the words because like the tears just come. And it's like for a lot of people who go to one of these workshops or maybe in a men's circle for the first time, like it's your first time really even talking about a certain thing that happened in your life, and like just the speaking about it is such a releasing like process and like letting go. And is that a huge part of like what your work is, like the letting go of stuff, or just you know what I mean?
Great question. Well, so what I do is I really try, and I would say the bigger part of what I do is it's more of a forward focus, right? Because like, well, where are we going, right? Or where do you want to go in your life, and how can we make that happen? But through that, a lot of times people do need to work on some things they need to let go of. It's really important. And what's interesting about, you know, we talk about talking out loud, part of why that's powerful is it activates more of the limbic system, right? Which is partially in charge of the emotions. And so when you speak out loud, it lights that up. And so now you're going to get more of real feedback of what's truly going on versus just like a cognitive expression, like a logical expression. And so I feel like, yes, coaching, just the act of people talking out loud, like so many people have said, like, oh man, just hearing myself say that out loud, like changed everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because so often we're in our heads. I think Tony Robbins says, in your head you're dead, right? And it's so true. And so having, it's not that you need a coach per se, but just having people that you can talk to, in vulnerability circles, men's circles. It's like if you can be open and just like say it out loud, and then you can process it. And when you hear yourself say it, sometimes you're just like, did I really just say that? Like sometimes it's just silly stuff, and you're like, am I really afraid of that?
Yeah.
And just that light of awareness is enough to create a shift. So yeah, it's super important.
Well, do you think it's important for your clients to like get it out? Because I think like in my experience, it's like the things you let stay trapped inside there hold power over you.
Well, it's like an idea too. Like if you never speak an idea out loud, it's never going to come to fruition because you're just holding it.
Well, and it's like they say the graveyard is, how do they say this?
Here we go.
Like we're all
the quote again.
Of course.
Come on, we want the quote.
No, it's like basically like we're all potential lives. Like because
the Les Brown thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like people go to the graveyard, you die, and all your dreams and hopes and books and movies and stuff that never came to fruition because you were too afraid and you let it stay trapped inside. And like, I don't know, for me, it's like, of course, it's the easier human condition to blame everyone else. And like, I think I've gotten, granted, I think there's a lot of stuff going on with governments and all that good jazz and corporations, but I think I put a lot of blame on them before. But it's like, well, again, I create my reality. I don't have to accept it, and they're just it is what like it is. Instead of like an expectation or wanting it to be another way, like it is what it is, and like I have the power to create something different. You know.
Absolutely.
So I'm just wondering, like your thoughts with your clients. Like, is that an important piece of it? Is like, hey, like let's get this out so you can take the power back, or like,
so that's definitely one of the benefits of coaching is, we probably call it something along the lines of camaraderie. Right, it's like having that person that you can say anything to, that you can, and it's going to be confidential, right? And you can just really it's really about building trust, right? So it's not sort of a granted that just because you have a coach per se that you're going to have that level of trust, but ideally you build that with your coach, and when you have that level, like I'm always blown away by what people will tell me. And some really horrible things. I mean, I've worked with people who've just experienced things that no one should have to experience. And so in that respect, it's also very, like cracks me open, right? To hear that stuff and be like, oh my God, like this is why I do what I do. It's because we have to, keep moving people forward. We have to help people get through these situations and really live the life that they want to. And so, so having that safe space and to be able to hold space is really important, and for people to sort of trust that they can say what they need to say and, be held in that. Not just say it and have the space, but to be held and to be able to see a way forward as well.
Yeah.
So
I have a question for you that I feel like might be of interest to some people, and kind of like understanding the difference. I recently heard that the difference between a therapist and a coach was kind of like a therapist is somebody who you work to like resolve like past issues, and coach is kind of more forward, like momentum. Is that, and then also kind of off of that as well, like I've experienced this with my workshop sometimes where somebody shares something and you're like, wow, like I don't know, do I have like the professional skills to like be able to really like handle that or deal with that, or like do you have like any kind of like boundaries sometimes where you're like, this isn't my line of work, and have you struggled with that?
I haven't struggled too much with it just because I guess I've been blessed to not have that many situations come up, but absolutely there's you have to know your limits and then what you can and can't do, and that's where sort of letting go of that ego is really important, right? Because as a coach too, it's not that I'm not there to be your savior, right? I'm not here to rescue you. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm here to just help guide you, right? So the guide on the side is sometimes what they call that. And in that, I need to make sure that if something comes up that I just don't feel comfortable with, and I have no problem holding that boundary because honestly, I don't want to be responsible for things that I shouldn't be. And there are things where people, it's like, and what I would just say is, I really don't feel comfortable, going there with you. That's not my area of expertise. I'm not a psychologist. It sounds like you could really use some professional help there. And I would recommend some people for that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wouldn't just like leave them, but it's like, here, let me give you somewhere to go.
Right.
But again, that doesn't typically show up for me, because with high performance coaching, it's usually people who are already in a pretty good place, right? They're high achievers. You know, they're just probably stuck in one or two areas. They really need some outside perspective, you know, someone to help kind of break through whatever limiting beliefs might be there, but also some strategies, right? So a lot of what I do is give people strategies and tools that work, right? And they can implement them in their habits that they just start doing, you know, day in, day out, and they just start to make those changes. So, but I think, you know, to Sean's point earlier about men's group, I will work with people more than maybe some other coaches with some past stuff, because, you know, doing a lot of shadow work, practicing a lot of, you know, processing people in shadow work as well as myself, I have some depth of experience to be able to, you know, work with them where they're at. So again, for me, it's just recognizing what is that boundary.
Well, I think it's like, when you say that, it's like, I mean, obviously you're not going to dive too much into that, but like, oftentimes you can't move forward in the future if you're still stuck in the past.
Right.
Yeah, so
especially if it's like big trauma, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I actually hold that space, is because I feel like you can get people to move forward and take actions, but if there's like a big trauma or something, a big shadow that's kind of holding them back, it's not going to be sustainable. And that's the problem. So they might start, you know, for, you know, a couple weeks, a month, maybe a couple months, but if they don't resolve what that behavior is, then they're just going to slide back. So for me, it is important to do some of that kind of work.
Because I've heard like, and I feel like this kind of played out in my life, is like, until you kind of like do the healing and build like that solid foundation, like every castle you build's going to crumble.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable through that shit still being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that's very interesting.
How long have you been doing coaching for? How long have you been kind of like stable in this?
Yeah, about three and a half years, I suppose.
That's fine.
I've been doing it. Yeah.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
Do you have a question?
Well, the reason I was asking is because it feels like, I feel like you're pretty stable and kind of confident in what you do now, and like something that's important for us to touch upon for listeners is kind of like those struggles and those like hard times that you had, whether they're things that you're going through now or things that you went through in building your business or things that you fear in the future, like whatever that may be.
Right.
Remind us all that you're human. You're not
Oh,
just
yes,
super
I'm
Nathan.
No, not at all. Yeah, there's lots of things. I mean, I struggle with personally, and that's why I have a coach too. Because we all, in my opinion, like we all maybe not need, but it's helpful for all of us to have someone who's, you know, keeping us on track. You know, for me, I'm definitely not a structure person at all. So that's where I tend to fall off. Is I'm just more like go with the flow and hey, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Right. That's my nature.
Yeah. A lot of similarities, Nathan and I.
Yeah, we do. Sagittarius.
Yeah.
But so because that's my nature, I can quickly just sort of fall off that routine, which is what habits are built on a routine. And so I'm not perfect with it, and I do struggle with my because I have a very specific calendar, right? I know where my clients are, I know who I'm seeing, and so a lot of my time is like pre-booked ahead of time, and so it's really those small spaces where I tend to struggle. So absolutely, like, you know, I'm someone who needs to make sure that I'm being held accountable too. So
Now,
we all are.
I want to ask this though too, because you're a business owner. You work with a lot of other business owners, so like, was there any like pivotal moments where it's like you woke up one morning like, why am I doing this, or like I can't, like, there's
what am I doing here?
What am I doing?
Why did I
like,
choose this
and like
life?
you just like
Yeah.
you push through it, or you like seriously considered stopping, or because I think, I mean, I could be wrong, but at least my experience, I've had so many of those, especially lately, where it's like, how am I inspiring, or you know what I mean, like, so I'm just wondering, and I don't know, I mean, I'm not every business owner, so I don't know that that's everyone's experience, but I feel like it's probably a pretty common theme in a entrepreneurial life. So have you had those, and are there any like real big ones you could like kind of talk upon?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's kind of a follow up to what you were asking, I think, Michaela. Yeah, so my girlfriend, I met her at the pharmaceutical industry, and she still works there, and I'll often say to her, I'm just going to come back. I'm just going to come back and work there, because like there are times when it's just like, oh, like this is so hard, right? It's just the day in, the day out, being responsible for like everything. Yeah, it's not a ride in the park, as you guys know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of times when I'll say it, sort of jokingly, of course, but there's some truth there. There's like a part of me that's like, oh, like it would just be so much easier if I just went back and did that. And then I just remind myself, that's not why I'm here. It's not why I'm on the planet. And she reminds me. She's like, I won't let you.
Good. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's why
Nice.
That's right. So we talk about support, right?
Yeah.
Like that, we all need that kind of support. We all need those people in our lives who are gonna help hold us to our own greatness, right? And they won't let us sort of fall back. And yeah, so absolutely, it's a challenge, and that does happen. And we just gotta stay the course.
Absolutely.
Stay the course.
I'd like to just announce that Michaela's done that for me on multiple occasions, so thank you.
Rebecca, Jen.
Yeah, I definitely got called out on my bullshit. Actually, I want to talk about this recent one because it was pretty funny. It was,
Oh God, what are we getting into?
I invited Michaela to a
Oh,
networking meeting, and I was really tired.
Did we talk about this last week?
Did we?
No, I don't know.
Maybe, who knows? But I was like, hey Michaela, like I'm too tired, I'm gonna like not go or something. And you were speaking to me in like code language, like kind of beating around the bush, which I hate.
Yeah.
Like basically like, well, where are your priorities or something? I was like, if you got something, I literally was like, and I like, but it's funny because I could like see my ego come out and like I didn't even care, like I just wanted to like fight, like I was ready, I was on the attack.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you have something to say, just say it. And so she's like, I don't even remember what you said, but you were like, you invited me and like you never know who we could meet, and I was like, eventually like the ego like calmed down. I was just like, fuck, you're right, okay. And then we went and it was like great, and like that's how I was telling you about WSCA before
and
this.
then he met somebody important, just like I said.
Yeah, so she was right, I was wrong. I just wanted to point that out. But support, I remember one of your big things that you said on that was like, I just have people in my life that I care about, and like I want to see you live up to your potential, and like it completely like destroyed my ego. Like the ego, as soon as she said that, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was like, I knew that anyway, but it's just like, you need that.
I feel like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, like you really need to let the ego go, because it's gonna get beat down.
Oh, so bad.
And it's hard. It takes time, though.
It does.
There's some things that you don't even recognize as like your ego stepping in sometimes, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And it takes a support or like somebody else calling you out on it.
Yeah, absolutely. My mentor says, for most businesses, they're going to follow this path, right? 1 to 2 years is a shit show, right? Just like you're fighting, it's hard, it sucks. And then like 3 to 4 years, you start to get a little more stable. You start to, get into some routines and some rhythms and things stabilize. And then, 5 to 6 years, that's where you really start to like scale. You start to understand your processes more, and things start to get pretty good, right? And so, I'm right in that 3.5 years, right? So, I do feel like there is some stability, and there's still a long way to go. So, and I'm just being in that. So many people today are impatient.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So impatient, and it's like, no, I want it now. It should happen now. Like, look at all these people out here and here. Like, they're successful. I should be successful. And part of that too is, I think the generation coming up has been told, how amazing they are, and you can do anything. And yes, that's true. It is true. You can't do anything, and it takes time.
Anything worth doing is hard.
Yeah. And so patience is so important, because if you can hang in there, that's going to help the mindset stay where it needs to be, so you can be successful.
Well, you look at like any like really like uber like I mean Beyonce, Justin Bieber, like they did that shit since like not birth, but like really very young, so it's like it was like a 15-year process, and now they're killing it. But of course we just see like the highlight reel, and it's like, oh yeah, they must have done that in like 5 seconds. But then like you get in it, and the other thing too, I think is like I know I've gone through, so you get that initial momentum, like that moment where you're like, this is what I'm gonna do the leap, and then you're like, yeah, and then like 3 weeks go by and you're like, shit, like, okay, this is like the reality of this.
Well, it's this, like, constantly.
But, and it's a trade-off, because you talked about being in the pharmaceutical, and like it's easy, you get your 401k, like it looks pretty, you're making probably good money from what I understand with pharmaceutical companies. It's like, but there's that soul-sucking element, and it's like, it's a trade-off. It's like, do you want to ride the roller coaster of ups and downs and like challenges, or do you want to like be in something like that's probably still challenging but like pretty comfortable and like soul-sucking? And I know for me, like, that's the trade-off. Do I want to live on this roller coaster, or do I want to like sit in a chair and be comfortable and feel like I'm dying every day?
Yeah.
At least that's my that's my view and perception of it.
Well, everyone's different. Yeah.
Well, think about it too, right? Because eventually, once you get yourself settled, and you're in year 5, year 6, right, and things are hopefully going pretty good for you. That roller coaster isn't as extreme anymore, right? Because you have your processes in place, you have your systems. Just like when you go to work for somebody else, typically that company's been around for a while. So that's why it's easy for it to be stable, because they've figured out their systems and they're stable. And so it's not so much about the difference between entrepreneur and, you know, working for the man, right? It's just the man's figured it out, right? And so once you get to the point where you figure it out, it won't be as bad. Again, patience.
I'm often like,
just had a moment.
yeah, I did. I'm off in the universe, because I think that might be, that 5-6 year mark might be like universal. Like, I had this insight. Like, so I look at, of course I'm making it about me, but like my mental health journey, 7 years was around the time where I started to like find, because it was probably like look at that couch. That's what I felt like. But it was just this super high, super low, super high, super low, and it's now I feel like I have the tool belt where it's just and I'm wondering if it's like a universal truth for anything you do. For any journey you take, is it could be your mental health, it could be like a fitness journey, it could be a like journey battling an illness, it could be a business. Like, I'm curious now, because that timeline seems very similar to like what I experienced, and it was right around the 5-6 year mark where it's like, there's like,
well,
and now I guess,
or listen, leave some comments.
Yeah, maybe
let us know.
Yeah, maybe I'm scaling now. I'm scaling it. Who knows? You know, like, I don't know. But I thought that was a very interesting insight how the light bulb went there. So I know you're working on rebranding.
Ooh.
So this is future
Unless you
stuff.
don't want to tell us.
I mean,
Are you not ready?
No, well, fine. This depends what you mean by ready.
so
I'm ready to talk about it.
I just know
don't
you
have
were
my systems in place.
No, that's fine. No,
you're back to us in 5 or 6 years.
So just kind of thought. Well, okay. So let me give you some direction here. So I know you're really excited when you were talking to me about it. So that's why I kind of want to bring it up for the people. Is what have you been doing? What was the name? What did it look like? And what is like the shift that you're making? Like, what is that going to look like in 2019? Because I've been told at the start of this that 2019's got some big things coming for us and Nathan Smith. So
that's true. I did say that, so I guess I need to
back that shit up.
Okay.
Tell the people.
So my company currently is called Embodied Excellence. So a bit of a background on that is, the reason why that's important for me is because embodiment is, I feel like, and because this has been my journey, so much for me, I was in my head for so long. And embodiment doesn't necessarily exist just in the mind. It's embodied. It's how you express yourself. And for me, I was very, again, until I sort of broke out of my shell, I was very just in here, and I didn't allow myself to come out. Part of that too is I think I told you the story, I had problems with my voice when I was younger, and I sort of had this Peter Brady voice all the way in, until I was 19, 20, I want to say.
Really?
And it was just kind of like this, and I was afraid to talk, and it was horrible.
Wow.
And you can imagine why that would stifle one's expression. So anyway, long story short, I got that figured out, and part of that was the beginning of my journey to be more expressive, and sort of that combined with what happened with my brother was sort of this double whammy against me. So when I broke out, I really broke out, and I got just very, I don't know, I think I mentioned to you how I'm kind of goofy, a little weird sometimes.
Absolutely.
I think that's where that comes from. It's sort of all that pent up stuff when I was younger. It's like, let it all out. So anyway, so embodiment's really important, because if you just leave it, again, in your head, like, you're going to be in trouble. And so really the way that you emote, you use your body, use your voice, all this stuff is really important to me. And then excellence, well, obviously excellence is important. High performance coach, right? That's the standard that you want to shoot for, excellence. So that was where the original company name came from. And I really like it. And those concepts are still important to me. What I've sort of been thinking about over the last couple of years, and just really coming to fruition now, is my mom also passed away when I think I was 24 or so, and her last name was McHugh, and I just really wanted to honor her. So as well as like find a way, because Smith is also a very common name. I love my name, but it's hard to build a brand on something so sort of generic, I suppose. And so I'm like, wow, I could really honor my mom. And so I'm going to rebrand as Nate McHugh Coaching, which I'm really excited about.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's very honoring, and
It's cool.
yeah, and part of that, right, is like the tenets are still there. So for me, it's really about helping people evolve faster, elevate their life higher, and embody excellence. So that's kind of sort of my pillars, if you will.
That's amazing.
Of that.
And I'm gonna like take a U-turn way back to the beginning of the conversation, because
Turn around.
now that you've really talked about how much the emotional world is important to you, I'm going to bring our similarities into this.
Yes,
so
please.
we both would identify as two men that repressed emotion for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Broke out in the later stages of life. The other similarity I saw was like having a lot more female friends, connecting with women more. Now, I know in my experience that has been about healing the feminine energy within me, because I led with very male dominated, and I feel like being friends with so many women was like a subconscious way of my soul trying to like heal that feminine energy by being around it and trying to learn. And that was also a space for me to learn that emotional language of like, oh, it's okay to express and like be a goofball or cry or get mad or whatever needs to be expressed. And there is so much importance with that. And I mean, like, it's no secret that, I mean, there's mental health because people are repressed. There's like a lot of men struggle with this. Like, I mean, think about Circle. Like your first time, it's like, I mean, I obviously was ready, so I mean, I've just been spewing since day one. But for a lot of people, it's hard to express. So I don't even know where I was going with this, but like, I just want. Yeah, well, I mean, it was a U-turn, but like, I guess I just want to kind of see what your thoughts are. Does that resonate for you? Do you think, like, because that's a lot of your work, and I just want to talk about the importance of that moving forward for just not only men, but everyone. And like how important, like, what is your thoughts on, okay, this is the question. What are your thoughts on developing that emotional world? Because I think for so long, I was missing it. Now that it's open, it's like there's a whole different world available. There's whole different conversations available.
Yeah. Can I ask you to refine your question?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you mean by my thoughts on developing the emotional world?
Yeah,
Like
so
within his business? Or?
No. Just as a human being, the importance of that, because you say that is very important for me, and it's why you have chosen this path. And you say you want to help people. Like, really, it sounds like develop that, because in my eyes, I don't think you're developing a high level of success or any of this if you can't regulate emotion.
Right.
So, yeah, like, can you talk about like how important you think that is for people to develop based on your own experience?
Yeah. So incredibly important.
Wow, that took a minute. Thanks, guys, for being patient, and viewers. Jesus, 30 minutes to get a question.
No, so yeah, it's definitely incredibly important, and it's even interesting. Just even last night, I was seeing commercials from pharmaceutical companies, but they're talking about emotions now, which is really interesting to me.
Nick Jonas.
No.
Cigna. No.
Yes, Cigna.
Yeah, Cigna. That's Nick Jonas.
3000.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's Nick Jonas. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that too.
So now I'm coming back around.
Yeah, my smile lit up when I saw it. I was like, yeah, go like America.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I mean, it's very much coming into the mainstream now, I feel like. And it's important because one of the things that I talk about in terms of people not being able to access their emotions is it really does cost you, or could cost you, thousands of dollars, right, a year. Because if you're not able to really access your emotions and use them as a resource, right, versus a liability, and to really know what your emotions are telling you, then oftentimes people will hold themselves back, right? So fear, right? So the fear comes in, they don't know what to do with it, how to process it, and so they just stay stuck. Again, we talk about shame, right? People just feel that low self-worth. And if you feel low self-worth, I mean, what's your confidence going to be? It's going to be pretty low, right? And so these are really important things to be able to process. But also, you know, on the other side of that, you know, it's just not talk about the negative, if you will, but excitement, you know, enthusiasm. I actually had, I love this, a client the other day. He coined this phrase, and he's like, feel free to use it. So he's like, I'm looking forward to, in 2019, going into a place of, or going into it from a place of enlightened enthusiasm. I really like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's really important too, to be able to access those more excitable energies as well, because that's what's going to get you into action, right? When you're excited about something, when you're passionate about it, that's when you take action. So like you said, like when you have the roadmap, you combine that with that emotion that's really like, yeah, like let's do this. That's when you're going to take that massive action. But if you're not, and you're sort of like stuck in yourself, and you're like, oh, I don't really know, and I'm uncertain, and you know, I don't really know what to do with what's happening inside here. You know, people, when they don't let themselves express their emotions, they tend to come in, right? They come inward. And when you come inward, well, you're not taking action usually. And the other thing too is, and we talked about this, and with one of our mentors, Kodo, is, you know, emotions are information, right? And so, just like with any decision you want to make, right? You want to have all the information possible so you can make the best decision, right? And so if you're not really letting yourself process or understand what those emotions are, well, you're not making your decisions with all the information you can. So that's another reason for me personally why that's so important.
Yeah. Well, I think like in our relationship, like, you know, I think we've both grown a lot in the last 6 months. It's like, if you don't have the ability to emotionally process and like have those tough conversations, I don't think you can develop deeper relationships, based on my experience.
True.
And I think like being able to do that with you, and like being scared and like having tough conversations. And I actually even like had a pep talk with Nathan about one of the tough conversations we had one time. You know, so it's important to be able to do those, because like, granted, we talked about this, it's like been like 6 months, but I feel like we have like a deep friendship, you know, and it's based on the fact that like we talked about the tough stuff, and like you asked me for space recently. It's like, okay, all right, cool, you know, but it's just like, that's what I was talking about. There's like a whole different world available if you can learn to do that. And I also have heard, if you don't know how to feel the dark, you can't feel those super high levels of joy either. You know what I mean?
When you limit one, you limit the other.
Oh, for sure. And I think too, like your emotional health comes, and your emotional, like just being aware of your emotions is probably like the foundation for like a healthy life moving forward. Like I recently just read that, like just in the States, for example, this is kind of like off topic, but I think it's going to come back. We spend like 95% of our money, like in the government or whatever, on treating illnesses, and only 5% on preventative measures. And I think like mental health and like just being able to like use your emotions properly is the foundation for a healthy lifestyle moving forward. So I think coaching in a way is a preventative measure. And I'm just thinking too, like now as I like just like ramble, that who is your ideal client? Like why would somebody like be coming to you? And like how is that kind of a healthy choice for somebody?
Yeah, great question. So people would come to me for a lot of different reasons. Technical issues.
No, someone's calling.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Keep going.
So people would come from sort of all different walks. Like I said, there's the high performance element is people who are already, you know, they already have things kind of figured out, but they just want to go to that next level, right? Because in my experience, everyone has another level. And what's so interesting, right? I've worked with people from over 20 countries around the world, like more than that, and you know, we all have the same stuff, which is what's so fascinating, right? It's the same stuff that holds us back. Doesn't matter where you're from. And so we all sort of need that, and there's that next level, and so people just want to know, like, what is that next level? Because we all also have blind spots, right? I have blind spots, you do, like everyone does. You can't see your own stuff oftentimes because you're in it. And so the value of coaching is or people who would come, or people who just really want that other perspective, right? Who are like, know that, you know what, there's more I would say the ego is at a place where it's like you need a strong enough ego to like show up in the world, but you also need it to be, you know, in check enough that you need help, right? Or you know that help could get you to another level, right? So it's those people who are in that space and like, you know what, like, yeah, I could use some help. You know, I could use that outside perspective. Someone who's like been there, or, you know, done that, or heard about that, or experienced this, you know, whatever it might be. So that's like one person, and I really enjoy working with those people because again, there's like a whole level of excitement that comes with that when they're, oh my God, like, you know, I thought I knew this, and now there's this other thing, and they get excited. And then there's the people who are just really in a tough spot, right? People who feel stuck, you know, people who are even, you know, in that blame, right? You know, I think so often people might be blaming others, but not realizing it, right? They don't see where they're making excuses. They don't see where they say, oh, well, if it wasn't for that, you know, then this would happen, right? And so that needs to be addressed. That needs to be looked at. So what I really like is taking people from that stuck place, or maybe where they're blaming, or maybe they're just suffering, right? We talked about, you know, not necessarily like deep trauma, because that needs often professional help, but people who are just kind of like, they've experienced some hardship and they're like, you know what, like, I just need someone I can talk to, right? And someone who can move me forward, help me move forward, show me a path. Within my coaching, you know, I take people through a curriculum. You know, these are scientifically proven habits, right? It's not like, well, is it going to work? Well, it's proven to work when you work it, right? And that's the thing, too, is if someone is, to answer your question by not answering it, if someone is in a place where they're, they want to just sort of say, oh, well, what you gave me doesn't work, right? So that's like that's a blame thing, right? That's giving your power away. And so one thing is for people who are ready to really own their power, to claim their power, and to do something with it, whatever stage they're at, like that's ultimately who I want to work with.
Nice. And do you have like an age bracket, or is it anyone and everyone?
Yeah, well, I found that with just the work that I do, I really love like 30s to 40 is really good. Okay. Like, not that cuts out, because I've worked with some fantastic millennials too, who are just like, really want to go, although I guess some 30 to 40 is millennial too, but 30 to 40 is great, because I find a lot of people in that, like, they started to figure it out, right? But they're like, okay, I know there's more, I've kind of got more of my feet under me, and I'm ready to go. So those tend to be people who are just like really fired up, and like a great group to work with.
Do you work with mostly entrepreneurs, or?
Mostly entrepreneurs. You know, I've worked with, you know, CEOs and, you know, stay-at-home moms and, you know, 9 to 5 people. Like, I've worked with sort of the whole range. But it tends to be people who are entrepreneurs, who are looking to do their own thing and just need that focus, right? Because we talk about how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And it's like, oh my God, like, there's so much to do. How do you organize it? And that productivity piece, which is a lot of what, you know, I focus on too, and is super important. So having that, persuasion too is another big piece that I personally love talking about, influence and persuasion, because there's, you know, that's about relationships, and that's what I'm all about, is relationships. And so I love having those conversations. I love helping people sort of learn how to have conversations effectively, with, you know, whether it's their boss or with clients or whatever it might be. I don't know, I just really enjoy that. But
I have a question for you about persuasion. Would you agree with this statement if I were to say persuasion is based upon like belief? Like, and by belief I mean belief in like yourself. So like, if you're gonna persuade someone to work with you, you better believe in yourself, right?
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
It's certainly helpful.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
because
I feel like if you don't, then you're just lying.
Well, yeah, but how many times have you heard fake it till you make it? I've heard you say that to me.
Right.
And it's not, a lot of times you're building your belief as an entrepreneur, because you're like, I believe I can do it, but then you get it, and then you get like
build a plane in the
kicked
air.
in the junk, or like knocked in the teeth, and you're like, ooh.
Well, so here's what I would say about that, and that's a good point. But there's, with, we talked about tonality earlier, and so I feel like if you're trying to persuade somebody and you don't believe in yourself, they're going to know it. They're going to hear it.
There's a difference between believing yourself, not believing yourself, and faking it till you make it.
How do you figure? Can you explain
still
that to me?
believe in yourself, and faking it isn't necessarily like faking it. It's just a term, like a, what's the word?
Yeah, but I feel like you're faking
but
your
but
belief
you believe
until
in
you make like
no, but
you've
you
got.
believe in yourself still. You believe.
Then what are you faking?
Like
This
your
is one of our-
like your like
I feel like we're
success,
getting
like
into
your
one.
level of success, I guess, like how much impact like you've already had. Maybe like you're in a way making yourself seem bigger and more than you are, like filling in a larger presence than maybe
Gotcha.
you
Okay. All right. I can get on
in
board with that.
like maybe
Okay.
societal terms like deserve.
I want to
You're
argue with
making
you because that's
yourself
what we
feel
do. That sounds
bigger
really
and
good.
look bigger.
I think she's gonna win that argument.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm literally already like bowing down. Like,
usually
yeah,
do.
okay, that sounds really good. Yeah, okay, I got
Yeah?
you. No, I
Does that
feel
make sense?
no, it really does.
Like if you don't believe in yourself and you're not like
Yeah.
projecting that confidence, then you can sit back in the seat of like, oh, I don't believe that I'm good enough, because you're not yet. You're not good enough yet if you're just this
Whoa,
own.
whoa.
Oh.
Like
What
there's
is
not.
that about?
These two
Whoa.
are gonna have a.
No, but seriously though, like, what do you mean?
I'm
mean,
saying
that's
if
for-
you make yourself small and you don't, if you
Time out.
and you say I'm not good enough, then you're not good enough. But if you stand stronger and make a larger presence and say that I believe in myself,
What's the book you just read by Oprah? Doesn't it say like you are enough for breathing and being on this planet? Yeah, you just
I
said
wasn't
unless
saying
you're
I'm
like
enough.
unless
I'm
you're
saying
Oprah,
if
you're.
you sit in this space of shrinking and not believing in yourself, then you don't believe
Alright,
you're
well, I
enough.
just wanted to make sure you clarify it for the audience. And Nathan
I
is
am
still
enough.
here.
You are enough. You are enough.
Yes,
You are all enough.
You're all enough.
You're all enough.
Well, there's, I feel like some of this, like sometimes we get caught up in semantics of certain things. I think that, if we look at from an integral perspective, right? So just looking at different perspectives, something like fake it till you make it. Some people, and I've heard people talk about, like don't go by that expression. And if that's what you believe, then that's fine for you. Great. If that's going to help somebody get through imposter syndrome and like help them just take action and break through, great. It's like, let's not get caught up in, again, that semantic argument too much. It's like, let's take that holistic view that says, if this is the thing that's going to help you, break through the next level, great, right? That's where you're at. And that's the thing that's going to help you get there. And then from that next level of perspective, now you might be able to see, where that other person who said, don't follow that thing, what they were talking about. But it doesn't matter. If it helps you, it helps you.
Mm-hmm.
So move through. And you're like, we all have our own level of growth, right? We all have our own, again, perspective that we're going to see things through. And so I just think, look at it from the perspective of, is this a helpful view for me, right? Is that going to help me or is it not going to help me?
Yeah.
And if it does, great. Move forward.
You know what I think is important about that too is it's just like talking about the grace of like you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
I kind of like I was listening to that, but I like went off in La La Land. I'm just gonna admit it. And I was actually thinking.
Presence, Sean.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't present. I'm just
I
gonna
was
totally
listening
own
with
it.
him.
But
Thank you, Michaela.
but it's like, we're all going through this life process, right? And like oftentimes, like even when you get more presence, sometimes I think you're even judging where you're at even more.
Mm.
I don't know. At least that's been my experience, and it's like you're always exactly where you're supposed to be, and like the mistakes you make, or you say they're mistakes, but they're always like a learning lesson if you can look at it that way. And it might be like a really bad mistake, but it might be like
Right.
that big mistake that really helps you shift to like, all right, like that is not working anymore. Like
Right.
we gotta get this on a different path. I don't know why I was thinking about that, but we're talking about perspective and like
Well, I think
it seemed important.
off of that, like, obviously you're not the only coach in the area. So how
Right.
do you find that, like, how do you, what's the word I'm looking for, not cope, but like not, I don't know why that's the word, compare, that's the word I was looking for. How do you not compare yourself to other, like, coaches and, like, find that, like, I know for photography, I always get that, well, how are you, like, working in that, like, it's such an oversaturated, like, market, like,
Yeah.
no, like we're all coming back to what we said earlier. Like we're
Yeah.
all our own person in what we do, and just I think Raya said this in our interview. Just being you separates you enough, like makes you different enough.
Yeah. There's that great expression, and I don't know who coined it, but comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh yeah, baby.
Right.
I know that one well.
Yeah, it's like we compare ourselves, and it's not that I've never compared myself before, because I have, but really that's about self-confidence,
Yeah.
right? And just looking at, am I good enough? And it's not to say that you can't look to other coaches and say, oh, like what did they do really well, right? So that's more where my approach would come from, is looking at people and just, okay, well, what could I learn from them, right? Because I know I'm not them. I mean, they don't have my experience, and I don't have their experience. And I feel like, part of this is that we all sort of, like the people who do come to me and I end up working with, there's something in my background and there's something that just resonates there that is meant to resonate. And the ones who don't, right? And that's totally fine. Like I just didn't have what they needed. And I trust that, the other coaches out there, like we all serve our purpose.
Yeah.
And we're all going to attract the people that we're meant to attract. So kind of what you're talking about. So I guess to answer your question, I don't really think about it that much.
Yeah. Do you think that do you find that you learn things about yourself from your clients?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's so funny when probably one of the biggest lessons is when you're coaching somebody and either I might have something that I'll say to them or they'll come up with some brilliance and I'm like, wow, I should probably do that.
Yeah. Isn't that so
It happens all the time. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Huh.
As one of my friends says, you got to eat your own dog food.
Yeah.
Well, I think that comes back to the whole you having a coach as well.
Yeah.
Like I recently heard that somebody said, I will never go to a therapist who doesn't themselves see a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or hasn't seen a therapist.
Absolutely. Because when you look at it too, I mean, that's sort of, that's another sort of level of that ego. Right? If you have a coach who doesn't have a coach, then to me that just assumes that, I don't need one, I've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? And they're just like, whoa,
Which,
hold on,
yeah.
put the brakes on.
We're constantly working on ourselves.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
You can never know everything. Like the more, I feel like the older I get, the more I understand, like, I will never even remotely come close to knowing everything. Like,
Yeah.
I'll know the smallest chunk of things, which I might know the things, but then you talk to someone from a completely different walk of life, like traveling suit for that, right? And then your mind's completely like, what?
Right.
Like, I didn't even know this existed. Now my problem is, here we go. Here's the intersection of the question I was going to ask you.
Coming through.
The one I was going to ask you in that corner earlier. It's like,
oh yeah.
So I know maybe this isn't a Sagittarius thing, maybe it is, I don't know. But I know for myself, my hardest thing in life has been to focus on one or two things. I am interested by so many different things and I feel like I can get sucked into those so easily. I went to Portugal this year and got off on a surfboard. I'm like, oh my god, I want to go back and buy a surfboard. And then it's I golf and I hike and I fish and I do this and it's I'm already I'm getting worked up just talking about it. And then I'm like, oh, but I like learning about neurotherapy and maybe I want to be a neurotherapist and this and that. It's that's my life that goes on in my head. So trying to steer that focus. I wonder if you have that same experience. Maybe it doesn't sound like from your story you do, but
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. So here's what I would say to that is I certainly have many interests, and that can be a struggle at times in terms of a profession. Which is that more what you're talking about, or are you just talking about in general?
Profession probably is more what I'm leaning towards, but I'm kind of just curious about it in general because I feel like that in general affects the profession.
Yeah.
Because if you'd rather be hiking a mountain or golfing or fishing or hiking or skiing or something that distracts from your business.
So here's a good segue, I guess. Is it's great to have various interests. If you want to get really good at something, what do you have to do? You have to go deep, right? You can't dig a bunch of shallow holes, right? You gotta dig one deep one, right? And get really good. That's how you get good, is through that experience. So it really comes back to what do you want for yourself? Do you want to have lots of sort of superficial experiences that might be fun, but you never really attain mastery? Some people might be okay with that, and cool. That's your thing. Do your thing. If you really want to get good at something, though, you have to concede that you need discipline. You need to discipline yourself to, stay focused and to build a schedule or a learning plan or something that's going to help you achieve mastery. It's kind of reminded of a story. I think it was Cal Newport who talked about he's the author of Deep Work, and he wrote another book. I can't remember the name of. Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, I think. But he talks about following your passion, sort of this myth of following your passion. There's so many young people who are just I just want to do what I'm passionate about, right? And they just go and they're stressed out trying to figure out what that thing is. The reality of the situation is the people who are telling you that, who say follow your passion, they mean well, right? And it's true, you should follow your passion. But you want to remember that the people who are saying that, they got to where they are, most of them, through like varied experience, right? One thing led to another, and they eventually found their passion. They didn't start off like, this is my passion and I'm doing it, right? They found it over time and through experience. It's that comes full circle to that park car thing. It's like, just try different stuff and you're going to see what lights you up. But the bigger thing is, as you're doing different things, you're going to build different skill sets, right? And eventually those skill sets are going to come together and something that you're really passionate about. And now you'll be doing what you're passionate about, and hopefully you'll be good at it.
So viewers, I don't know if I did that on purpose, but you just got free coaching advice, and if that didn't make you want to hire this guy, then I don't know what will. But I just was taking notes because that was like awesome. But
that was great.
Well, I think we were even talking about that before he got here as we were brainstorming. It's like, maybe, I don't want to speak for you, but knowing you, it's like we both like to do a lot of things. You have 4 businesses right now?
A lot of things.
And it's like this idea of like, what's that about? And I know for myself, I can like openly say it's been about fear of success and failure. And you know this because we've talked about what my fears of success are, is that if I'm successful, I'll be alone, which is a bunch of malarkey. So that's a good word. But there's that element of it, and I've never thought of it as just being superficial experiences, but yeah, like it's just like diving deeper into yourself. And for me, like dealing with mental illness, like that wasn't easy or like always pretty and fun and awesome. Like it's like ego deaths, like that sucked. And like I think it's sometimes like the same thing. If you want a deeper experience of anything, you got to be willing to go through that. So that, thank you is what I'm trying to say. That was very powerful.
You're welcome.
It was.
And I also really want to selfishly circle back to you and Liz, because guys, they came to the restaurant and visited me, and I was keeping an eye on them. At one point, they were looking deeply into each other's souls, holding each other's hands. Nathan was wearing this dope hat, and I was just like, God dang it, they were just so cute. Like, and they're drinking.
She's great.
Yeah. So,
shout out to Liz. I think she's watching.
Yeah.
Hi,
Liz, I love you, and Nathan, you guys are awesome. But can you talk about that, because you said she's like, as a support system, that person's like, no, you're not going back to pharmaceutical. And I can just see Liz saying that, like it's not even like maybe, it's like no, you're not like doing that. I can just see her saying that.
Basically, yeah.
So
she would kill me first.
Yeah, exactly. So like, can you talk about that, because I know for myself, so I'm gonna point this out, and this might be other people, this might resonate, is like, you know, sometimes I've thought of like, oh, I can do it better on my own, right? Like, and that's probably just a lot of ego, but, you know,
I probably out of there.
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
100% with the ego. All right. But I think it's like Rhea and Miles, right? Like these people that are having a lot of success, that are entrepreneurs, that have that like that partner that like really keeps them on track, and it seems like they really have this like deep, profound love for each other. Is like, can you speak on that, like what that's meant for you? Because you and Liz have been together for a couple years now. 3, yeah. So like,
it's about how long you've been.
Look at that. Oh, whoa! I didn't like that. So could you talk about that? Like, because I think I want to see like your perspective on.
Well, when you think about the approach to answer this question, I think that having a rock like that is, I mean, beyond words to really say it. It's a hard thing to answer. I mean, it's one of those things where it's, you know, without that, like I can't even imagine, you know, where I'd be, right? Like honestly, if I didn't have that support, and that was true, you know, too. It's always been true for me. Like if I didn't have that support, like I don't know that I'm as strong as, you know, I'd like to believe I am. And that's why I think that we all need, whether it's through friendship or, you know, through relationship, I think we all need someone who is going to see us for who we truly are, right? Like they're gonna see, and that's what Liz does for me. Is like she sees what I want to do, and she sees my heart, and she sees what my purpose is and my passion is, and she just won't let me not follow that. Right? It's just not an option, which is what's so great. You know, like I'll say it, and then sometimes I'll say that because when it gets hard, and we talked about it does get hard, I'll say it, and it's that, you know, reaffirmation, you know, that she won't let me. It's like, no way, like you can't, you know, I won't let you.
That's probably like,
and it's just like, all right, let's refocus.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a very nurturing, supportive, but also very focusing thing to have.
That's amazing.
I'm blessed to have that.
Yeah.
So.
I'm blessed to have you in those. By the way, we have to have this like all dinner together, please, soon. I would enjoy
I
that.
hope she's listening.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she is.
Liz, I hope you're listening because you're awesome. You guys are. I'm glad you guys are in my life. I'm grateful for you guys.
Oh.
Great example.
Sweet.
What I want.
Well.
I feel like we're like out of time.
We're running out of time here.
Okay.
Should we ask them about what a wild heart is?
Should we have a side conversation
Sure.
about it?
Wait,
Should we
yeah.
ask them about the wild hearts? Okay.
Yeah, do you want to do it?
Yeah, you got it.
No, you got it. You got it. No, I've been asking. You go.
That's not true.
I've been asking a lot.
Do you want to argue about it?
Sure.
Yes. Ask me.
Nathan, can you tell us what having a wild heart means to you?
Having a wild heart. Yeah. So wild heart for me is really about two things: authenticity, and probably one of the bigger ones is spontaneity. And what I mean by that is like no expectations, right? Like so often we have these expectations for how we want life to turn out and relationships to turn out, and and it's what is that saying? I think Tony Robbins says, if you want to change your life, trade your expectations for appreciation.
I love that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a big piece of it. Like if you have a wild heart, like it's uncontained. It doesn't have to know what's going to happen. It's just going to trust that wherever it is where it's supposed to be. And that doesn't, and I'm cautious to say that in the respect of, that doesn't mean that you're not in control of your life and that you're not, directing the path. But you direct it from a place of like this, just like open, right? You're not, oh, it has to be this, it has to be something tight, it has to be something specific. You just trust in what's going to happen. And when I feel like, when we speak for myself, when I'm open and I come from that place, I see a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
Right? And I see more opportunity for life to unfold versus having this like clear, like say expectation that this is what has to happen. Well, if this is what has to happen, this is all I see. Right? And there's so much out here that's wonderful and beautiful, and I'm missing it if I'm on that expectation. So
I love that.
That was so
Just
good.
like give me the chills.
I know, well, because I think it's like, real quick here, I know we're supposed to be like done, but it's like the human will. Like if you get stuck to an expectation, like you said, you're missing 8 bazillion different million ways that else it could have happened, because you're like, it's gonna be this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I would like to end with life advice from a life coach.
Well, okay, so I brought my poem. I was thinking, am I reading my poem?
Oh my God, yes, please. No.
Yeah, read us the poem.
Okay, I don't have it memorized. So
You have it, grab it,
Yeah.
please.
Let me get it, okay.
Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good.
Woohoo!
Where'd I put
Yes,
it? It's in my coat. Where'd you put my coat?
Oh, it's hanging on the door. Can you see it?
Please hold.
Yeah.
We'll do a little dance.
Oh my gosh, we will not be doing
Make a
I'm
little
like
love.
cold and sweating at the same
Get
time.
down tonight. Oh, get down.
Wait, can you leave? This is the Michaela show.
Sure, actually.
Wait, no, come back.
Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Oh, this is so good.
Woo!
This is way better. All right.
Okay.
I've heard this. Oh, so good.
So I think I told you I like to write
Oh, jeez.
poems and whatever. Even though sometimes I have my own self-conscious stuff, so this is a good way for me to be vulnerable and have a wild heart.
Hell yeah.
Yay.
Oh my God, that's
Okay.
so good.
So should I set the frame for it?
Yes, please. I
Okay.
think you should.
Okay, so one of the things I'm doing in the new year, to also answer your question, that I'm excited about, is I'm starting a membership site for people
So cool.
who want to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs. Not that you have to be an entrepreneur, but like-minded people who are looking to just find greatness in 2019 and really live into their dream and their passion, and want support from the community and just from a coach who's sort of been on the path and has some strategies to help you with. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
Oh my God.
Yay.
All right.
So good.
So this is what I wrote about 2019. All right. A new year quickly approaching, 2019, with so much promise for you to glean. Sure, last year went pretty well, but you have a much bigger story to tell. So let's set the stage and build your hunger. Let's face it, you're not getting any younger. Now is the time for a big transformation. So here's the let's keep it real translation. It's going to take hard work, commitment, and focus while cutting out all the hocus pocus. If you truly want to show up as your best and achieve your next highest level of success, then you're cordially invited to join my high performance mastery community, accelerating your evolution towards the land of opportunity. They say that fortune favors the bold, and by now this poem's getting old. So let's wrap it up with a couple familiar quotes. First, are you ready to burn the boats? Because the best chance you have to succeed is when you want it as bad as you want to breathe.
Oh, so good.
Good.
Oh my god. All right. So
Thank you.
after that amazingness, where do the people find you, or
Yeah.
where do they sign up for the site?
Oh, great. Well, you can find me at embodiedexcellence.com, or my email is embodiedexcellence@gmail.com. And we talked about pretty soon I will be rebranding, so it'll be the Nate McHugh Coaching.
Okay.
But that
What's
email
it?
is good for now.
Okay. So
embodiedexcellence@gmail.com.
what will the new? Do you know what the new website's gonna be? Since it'll be in 2019.
Yeah, it's going to be NateMcHughCoaching.com.
.com. And then how do they join the community? Is that off the website? Will there be like a little tab?
So it's going to be, so what I can do is maybe give you guys a link
Okay.
that you can send out to your community.
Perfect.
We're gonna give you a link.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
I
gonna
got
be
a link for
awesome.
y'all.
Hey!
Can't wait to have you. Anyone who wants to join.
We're not done yet because
Why?
I think we're afraid to talk about money. So why don't you tell the people? And then because you said, isn't there like a affiliate
Oh.
I think that's important. That's
Yeah,
like
that
an
is-
incentive.
that is important.
So I think I would like you to tell them.
Okay,
tell the
sure.
people.
Sure. So part of this community, of course, is we want the members to support one another and to bring in other like-minded, amazing people, and we'd say pre-qualify, right? So people who just really want to do it, right? And I almost hate that word, but we want people who are committed and passionate and really want to support one another. So what it's going to be is, so the fee is $97 a month for the membership, and then if you're a member, I have an affiliate link where you'll earn money for everyone that you get to join the community that you refer.
I mean,
So
win-win people.
Right.
You join the community, full of like-minded people, help you grow, free coaching.
Yeah.
And then you get money for
You get
bringing
money
the
back.
peeps in.
Yeah.
So cool.
Not bad.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
So with that,
Yay.
Is that
Thank
it?
you.
that is all.
Woo!
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you everyone for
Pleasure having
Thank
watching.
you for being here.
Thank you, my man.
Absolutely.
Yay.
And,
Sorry. I'm so sweaty.
Clap your hands.
Yeah, it's so gross. We should turn this off now.
All right. Bye everyone.
Bye.